Chamber of Commerce. This week is the national celebration of Small Business Appreciation Week. We're celebrating small businesses all across the country. And as you know, small businesses have a large impact in our local economy as well as across our great nation. Actually, in the Albany Chamber of Commerce, the small businesses make up a little more than 90% of our membership. So small businesses are extremely important. Today, if you're anything like me and my family, we're all busy. Sometimes we just don't have time to go outside of our profession and learn new topics. So our chamber has devoted this week to launch a new training program. Today's Lunch and Learn is being filmed. So if you ask questions, you're going to be on the hot seat, okay, for the world to see. The Lunch and Learn is being filmed and made available by the Albany Technical College. We greatly appreciate their services today and their help. And in the future, more training videos will be made available. And in fact, the Chamber would greatly appreciate any suggestions for future training topics. A special thank you goes to the Albany Technical College for providing this boardroom and for their production services of today's seminar. Also, I would like to introduce Matt Trice, who is the Economic Development, Vice President of the Economic Development here at the Albany Technical College. Matt, would you please come say a few words on behalf of the school?
Well, we appreciate the partnership and the opportunity to have you here on the campus. And we, too, are excited about the new format that you're moving to Lunch and Learn. Yesterday's Lunch and Learn, if you missed it, will be available Friday morning. There'll be a link on the Chamber's website and a link on our site as well. So you can sit at your leisure at home or office and take advantage of that, as will today's Lunch and Learn. So by Friday, they'll all be available to you. We encourage you to take advantage of that. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you, Matt. Today's sponsor is SB&T, a banking institution that is a stranger to no one in our community. Not only is SB&T a huge supporter of the Chamber, but a major supporter in the Albany area in so many ways. At this time, I'm going to introduce to you Catherine Canty. Come on up, Catherine. Catherine is with Synovus Corporate Treasury Management, and she'll be presenting our program today on corporate identity theft. Catherine, thank you. Thank you.
Hello. How are y'all? Good. Not only are we going to videotape this, but I'm 5 months pregnant, so I'm going to look extra large on the screen. And y'all are eating lunch, so this is going really well for y'all. We're going to go through a pretty thick PowerPoint, and I'm going to jump around because I know that we need to keep this tight on the schedule so you guys can get back to work. But the whole emphasis is just to be able to create awareness of what's going on in the marketplace, give you a few terms that you may or may not have heard of before, and then at the very end we'll talk about some different Treasury services that are available that can help protect against fraud and just kind of create awareness and open it up that way. At the very end I have a survey for you. And it would be great to get your feedback, and so we can tweak this. We've done this presentation a few times in the past. We learn something new every time, so when we get your feedback, that helps us out a lot. The agenda for today, we've got it broken down into different sections, but these are the different topics. We'll talk about some risk management, recognizing some of the scams. I'm not going to get into all the scams. You can very easily Google a lot of this stuff. The gist behind the scams is if you think it's too good to be true, it is too good to be true. How we can protect your business. We'll talk a little bit about information risk management. We'll talk about the banking tools that can help protect you. And where do we go from here? And then at the very end, if you're brave, we'll videotape some questions. So we're going to get started with the technology risk management. Let's just very briefly talking about what exactly is identity theft. And that's going to happen anytime someone tries to impose you and they try to go out there and maybe open up a credit card account, or they borrow your account number off the bottom of your check and open up new checks. They get it printed and start going around town paying bills and things like that, but it's not you. It's this other person who's doing it. You'll see it when you pull your credit report. You'll see all kinds of activities sometimes that's incorrectly reported. And in today's world, it's hard enough alone to get a mortgage approved. So it's good to go ahead and get a lot of this stuff checked out before you actually need to get your credit reviewed. I know that I went out there just randomly and checked it and found all kinds of just stuff that shows up, and I'm like, this is not who I am. And so it takes time to work with the 3 credit bureaus to get that stuff cleaned up. So it's good to go ahead and do it and be proactive and make those changes when you're not in that time crunch because you want to buy that perfect house and you need that mortgage approved. This talks a little bit more about what exactly is identity theft. There's a question here, you know, is identity theft going down due to greater vigilance with swift government action? It's being closely monitored. That doesn't mean that it's being stopped completely. It's still out there. We do have 11.6 million adults that were victims of identity theft in 2011. Total fraud was $34 billion. So that's a pretty big number. It's still out there. It's still happening. So you just have to be aware of what's going on around you. Is it still a threat? Yes, it's the #1 complaint category in the consumer network that we're going to actually break down. You can look at the different types of threats and fraud that's out there, but identity theft is the #1 item, and you'll get to see that on the chart. Let's slide over this. This is kind of fun. It's just a little pop quiz. These are questions that you can ask yourself or ask your business or ask anyone that you're working with. Are your company computers up to date on the antivirus, anti-spyware, and firewall protection? Have I ordered a copy of my business credit reports for at least the past 2 years? I use an unlocked open box at work or at home to drop off my outdoor mail. You know, a lot of times you'll just put the bills in the mailbox and drive off. Well, people will go behind you and pull your bills out. Now they've got free access to your account numbers. Not only that, but sometimes when you do need to report information or validate that you are who you are, you have to take a copy of a utility bill in there with you. So not only do they have your account number and routing number, but they also have a copy of the utility bill. So they're building this information on you. So you have to be very careful of where you're leaving this information that you really didn't think 2 things about, you know, not too long ago. Again, you can use a post office box. You want to make sure it's locked and secured. We have had instances where people go into the post office and they pay people to take envelopes out of the post office box. So even though the post office box is secure and it's locked, if it's full because no one's been by to check the mail, or the box is too small for the volume that's coming in, there'll be envelopes that are kind of hanging out. It's just a little corner. But if it's a utility payment box and they're going in there to get the payments out and you see a little corner of envelope, they'll pay good money to start to get that stuff out of the box. And we've had instances where we've seen that happen. I respond to unsolicited email messages that appear to be from my bank or my credit card company. You know, just don't go there. If you think we're calling you to say, hey, you know, I need your mother's maiden name, we're not going to call you for that information. I shred my banking and credit card information using a cross-cut confetti shredder. You know, if you don't have a cross-cut confetti shredder, go ahead and create a burn pile or put it in a little burn metal box or whatever you've got around the house and just go ahead and light it up and let it go there. So we've seen all variations. You don't have to go out and buy a cross-cutter. I verify that all financial, credit card, debit card, checking, and account statements are accurate. You know, if you can get out there every day, that's what we recommend. It doesn't take but 2 seconds just to go out there, log into the system, make sure that what's posting your account is really what you've spent. And if you haven't, notify the bank immediately, and we'll go ahead and fill out an affidavit and get that fixed. I have a privacy policy in place that all employees sign. You know, this is something that probably not a lot of businesses are doing, but it may be something that you may want to consider. You have that reputation risk with the company. You want to protect your business, your employees. You want to clearly state, you know, what is your privacy policy? What kind of customer sensitive information do you have out there? What do you think they can share with other people? You may have to spell it out for some folks and just let them know. We don't talk about XYZ in front of other folks. This is what we can talk about publicly, but this is considered privacy information. I have computer standards and procedures and penalties that are effectively communicated to employees at all levels. Again, that just kind of reinforces the privacy policy that you'll have. And we have something that's called Trusteer at SB&T. And Trusteer is a pretty great, pretty free, pretty amazing service that we offer. And we'll talk about that at the end. But what it does is it protects your computer, it protects your activity that's on the computer. We actually allow you to download something free from our website. It's the only time that you would download something from our website. But it monitors the activity on your account. It knows if you're in Albany. It knows if you're in New York City. It knows if you're in India. And if you're in India, and we always know you're not ever going there, or maybe you are, but it's for vacation and it's in 2 years. We know, you know where you're normally logging in to wire money out. And so Trusteer actually kicks a report out to us, and then we're going to contact you immediately and say, you're trying to wire money from India. Are you sure you want to do this? And we're not going to let that wire go until we call and talk to you. It'll track down the IP address. It'll just monitor your transactions. If you normally send an X amount of wire, and all of a sudden it's $500,000, and this just isn't normal, we're going to be able to monitor a lot of that. But Trusteer is pretty cool in the sense that it downloads onto the computer, and it can see if you've got viruses on there. And we've got some pretty techie folks that bank with us, and they swear that they don't have anything bad on their computer. And when you know it, they're the ones that have a virus that's hidden on the computer. So we call them and let them know that you've got XYZ on there, and you probably need to get it cleaned off before you're going to do your next ACH or wire sends. I focused a lot on the survey because I think that's more fun, but 6 warning signs of identity theft, bank statements for your credit cards. If you're getting statements and you never applied for these credit cards, that's something that you need to be concerned of. If you're getting calls from debt collectors, again, if this stuff just doesn't feel right, then you need to do some research. You need to ask questions because there's something fraudulent that could potentially be going on. Identity theft by state. These are the 5 states that we cover. You can see that Georgia was number 4 in the list, and these are just identity thefts. So we just kind of wanted to show what the numbers are. This was for 2010 for last year. And this is fraud by state. So the first one was identity theft. This is overall fraud. Again, Georgia came in at 14, not so bad. And these are all the different fraud categories. And you can see with all the different types of fraud categories, you've got banks and lenders, charitable solicitations, credit cards, debt collection. The number 1 item for fraud was identity theft. And not only was it number 1, but it blew it out of the water with the number of complaints and the percentages of complaints compared to what the other complaints were. So that's just another fact just to kind of put it out there. If you thought credit card fraud was high, you really need to consider what the identity theft is. This was kind of interesting. It just kind of tells us where's it happening, what age bracket is it happening. And it still happens if you're 19 and under because you don't have that credit established yet. So they can create this credit. So if you have young kids, they may have a credit score out there. They may have somebody who's using that Social Security number to establish credit. So that's something else to consider. Just because you've got an 18-year-old and you think they're clean and everything's good to go, you may need to go back out there and check on that before they go out there and get their first credit card or purchase a car. It begins to grow into the 50 to 59 age bracket. That's the highest. And that's simply because they've got more credit. They've been out there more, they've spent more money, they pull the credit more. The more chances of putting your information out there, the greater risk you're going to have. You've got 60 and over, they do have a smaller percentage. Those folks, if they see something suspicious, I think they call the branch immediately and they get you on the phone and they're like, I just got a phone call from so-and-so and I've never been there before. So they kind of notice that kind of stuff. But, these folks are still working, they're still raising kids, they're busy, they're just like, here's my credit card, let's get out. So this gives you a little bit about the identity theft by age. All right. due to time, I'm just going to throw these up there. You've got lots of different scams that are out there. These are the top 10 for the past year. Overall, if it feels too good to be true, it is too good to be true. The grandparent scam, that's where they know that Mark is down in Mexico for spring break because he left it on his Facebook page. He said, man, I can't wait, I'm going to Mexico for spring break. The week of I only have to go 2 more weeks of school before I'm going to be down there. It's going to be awesome. And so people get this information from the internet. And then they know when to call the grandparents, or they know when to call the parents. And they're like, okay, he's very straightforward, he's on the phone, he sounds scared, and, it's at 2 o'clock in the morning, and you're thinking, okay, I'm off guard. Why is my child calling me from Mexico, or my grandchild calling me from Mexico, and they need $3,500 to get out of jail, and they need it tonight. So then you run down to Walmart, you not FedEx, but you wire the money down there, and before you know it, you've got $3,500 less. You can't get the child on the phone because he's in Mexico because he posted it on Facebook. So you've got to be aware of what's going on out there. Government grant scams, they've got different grants out there available for businesses. You just need to be careful. Make sure that what kind of grant you are trying to request and work with is a legitimate one. All the rest of them, I'm sure you've probably heard of some of these. What should you be aware of? There's different types of ways that people can capture information about you online. You've got the different social networks like Facebook, the LinkedIn, Twitter, that kind of information. You've got to think that what you're posting out there, make sure that you really want to have that information out there, because not only are your friends reviewing it, your coworkers reviewing it, but you have a whole other demographic out there that may use this information, and it's not always for good. So make sure that whatever you put out there, it's pretty public information. You've got phishing, mishing. These are all different ways of people to contact you, either through the telephone, through the voiceover, or through the emails, and then also through text messaging. You'll get text messages. I know I've started to get them on my phone where it says, a coupon for XYZ, reply here for the code. And so they're validating that this is a good account number, or they're validating that this is a valid cell phone number, and they can begin to build files on you. And they can begin to steal your identity with just little bits of information that you probably think are pretty harmless in the beginning until they build it out. Trojans, those are just viruses that are going to get on your computer. And they can be keylogging. Basically, as you're typing into the computer, it's going to capture your key, and then all that is being rerouted into the bad people's hands. And what you're doing is you're typing in the bank website address, then you're typing in your username, and then your password. And they've captured that series of alpha and numerics. And then what they do later is they can log back in under your name. Top 10 dangers for social networks for businesses. Again, these are just all kinds of different situations that are going on out there. Targeted attacks, spam. Everybody gets spam. Hopefully you've got good filters on your emails that are coming in, so you're not getting a whole lot of that. You really got to be careful with the business reputation, with what's coming in and going out. You just got to make sure that that's protected. And then overall, when you do have to go through one of these nightmares, the productivity that you're losing, the income that you're losing because you're having to reroute all your energy to focus on this new topic that you really don't want to deal with because it has nothing to do with your business, the productivity that you lose is can be very expensive. As far as malware attacks, there's a W32 that basically just steals your credentials while you're on the internet. You've got to be careful with that. Zeus has been around for a while. Again, it sits on your computer. This is something that the Trusteer download that we offer can actually monitor and can see if you've got a Zeus virus that's on your computer, but they're there. And then you've got the domain name server. And what it does is that as you're entering information into the computer, it's all being rerouted into someone else's computer in another office, in another country, wherever they may be. So that's something else just to be aware of. If your computer is all of a sudden really slow, there's a reason why it's really slow, and it may not just be because it's older, it's because you've got a virus that's on that computer. And it's not only going to the internet, but it's feeding what you're doing on the internet to someone else, and that's what slows down the system. There's a phishing email example, and this is something that we would not do. We will not email you, but you can see that we've just got one example, and let's see if it carried over. Okay. It didn't carry over in this example, but what you do before you click on anything, put your cursor on the address. Yeah, it looks legitimate, but sometimes it's going to say HTTP, and then it tells you it's rerouting you to someplace in China or someplace that is not this bank website. So before you click on it, just put your cursor on it and just see where it says for you to go. And you can do this with any kind of email link that you have. Anytime, just put it, toggle it over, see what it says, make sure it looks legitimate before you go over there. And then also, if you're making any purchases online, of course, look for the little lock in that bottom right-hand corner. Make sure the address at the top has the S after the P for the secure website. So when they clicked on this particular link, what it did is it took them to the exact same bank website, because all they did was go out there and borrow our website. And it looked exactly like any other bank website that you would normally go to, and it says please log in. And so what they're doing is they're capturing your username and they're capturing your password to get in there. How do you protect your business? Of course, you want to update all your security software. You need to have those firewalls in place. Use secure sites for online transactions. We just talked about the little lock in the bottom right-hand corner. The HTTPS, always make sure you're looking for those. Look for skimmers. Have y'all seen a skimmer before? A lot of times when you go to the pay at the pump for gas, I'm not going to pick on ATMs because you're probably tired of me using bank examples, but if you go to pay at the pump, and it's going to be more than likely a pump that does not face the store, it's going to be a pump that's going to be further away. So it's real easy to drive on into that far away pump and then drive on out after you get your gas. And what happens is they put a little device over the credit card scammer, and you can jiggle it, because I jiggle these things all the time now. But you can jiggle them, and if it's loose, then it's probably got a little skimmer in there. And so as you swipe your card, not only are you paying for your gas, but they're capturing your credit card information. So if you wonder, how do they get my credit card information? It's happening everywhere. When you put the little card in at the pump, which you wouldn't think anything of, that's why they've added additional layers of security with the pay at the pump. They'll ask for your billing zip code. They'll ask for the last 4 digits of your card number, because sometimes these folks will steal Target gift cards. All they need is the mag strip and the plastic card, and they can put your account information on there. They can go to the grocery store, and the grocery people are not looking to see if it's Visa or MasterCard or Discover. They're just having you swipe a mag strip. So you just swipe that strip, and it has someone else's account information on there. So it can happen that way. You can get skimmers on eBay, so if you ever wanted to go out and purchase one, they're available out there. They're pretty easy to get. Also, you want to look for that film over the keypad, because it could be capturing your 4-digit number getting into your ATM. Or there could be cameras that are not issued by the bank when you're at the ATM that are up above or down below or behind you, and they're getting your 4-digit number, and they've got the scanner or the skimmer that's in there to be able to get your card information. As far as how do you protect your business, again, don't use the public hotspots. If you're on a hotspot and it's public, I really wouldn't suggest going to your bank website and doing anything that you wouldn't want to share to the whole world. Once that information's out there, it's out there. There is a lot of things that we all do, which is, click on here, is it safe? Yeah, we all have Post-it notes, and they probably all say, here's my password, and it's probably somewhere near your computer. We had one person that kept it under their keyboard, and they thought that was pretty hidden, because the boss said, get rid of the Post-it notes off the computer. And then you see that the yellow starting to dry down after time, and there's their password underneath. So make sure you keep that password changed. We know that you've got to keep a lot of different passwords out there. You want to keep a strong password that's got the alphanumeric and the signs. And a little trick that they've taught us is to come up with a sentence and just use the first letter of every word in that sentence. And you can incorporate numbers, you know, I work for the bank. And then you can do I, W, F, the number 4, T, and then B, you know, the bank or whatever it may be. So you don't have to necessarily try to remember these crazy passwords that I know we issue to you guys whenever you log on to the bank for the first time. But you can create passwords that go with that. Or if it's about, you know, my daughter is a junior at so-and-so high school, then you can incorporate these sentences into your password that you have. Try not to use the automatic login feature. I know it's super easy and it's really a lot faster, or it appears faster, but just try not to use those. Reconcile all your bank statements on a daily basis. There's going to be a service later that we're going to talk about. It talks about Positive Pay, where you can actually send us your check register file. From that, we take your check register list of what you said you've written, we compare it against what's clearing your bank, and then we can create an exception report every day. And more than likely, you won't get an email every day. But if you're getting an email from us, there's suspicious activity on the account. Either you forgot to tell us you wrote this check, or you've got some kind of fraudulent activity, and you can catch it immediately and go ahead and return that check. So Positive Pay protects you very well. Initiating ACH and wire payments, these are something that you've got to do with dual controls. I know it sounds like a hassle, but it's a lot smaller hassle having dual approvals and dual controls than it is for when somebody gets into your account and they borrow your account information and steal your money. So just take that under consideration. You know, dual controls are out there to help protect. Again, if you see anything suspicious, please call us. Please call us immediately. The sooner we can find out, the sooner we can start to investigate. Again, you know, we've got different types of monitors that are out there to watch your behavior styles. Are you normally sending payroll files on Thursdays every week? Now all of a sudden you're sending it on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and the amounts are just not in line with what you normally do. You know, we're going to monitor that. We can build it off of your activity to help protect you. We do have firewalls and virus protections in place within the bank. And then we force you to sign out. You know, after a while, if you haven't had any activity and you're on the internet banking, we're going to force you to sign out after a while just to help protect you. Contact with or anti-phishing initiatives. We've got a contract with a security company to monitor and remove fraudulent websites. There's folks out there, like we showed you earlier, that if you click on that link and it redirects you to another website that looks just like our website, but it's somebody else's. You know, we've got companies out there that we work with to help monitor that. We use services to help prevent account hijacking. We don't want someone to log in thinking that it's you and it's somebody else. And we offer security awareness. We've got a great fraud and technology team that are going to be more than glad to talk about this stuff until they're blue in the face, but they love it. So if you want to have lots of long, in-depth conversations, we can get them on the phone. They are glad to share their stories and information with you. What to do if your information is compromised? Pretty much, you know, contact the bank immediately. Immediately change any kind of passwords that you may have had that you could have revealed. File a police report. Get a copy of the report. File a complaint with the Federal Trade Commission. Close all the credit card and cash accounts. And then request the credit report again in 45 days after the compromise has happened, so you can see if anything else is snuck up in there. These are the different credit bureaus and their contact information. Now we're going to talk a little bit about information risk management. As far as counterfeit checks, you know, you'll have a vacation rental house. Maybe you've got one of these, and folks are like, well, I'm gonna mail you that deposit for the vacation house, and they mail it to you for the wrong amount. And they're like, oh, just go ahead and deposit it, write me a check for the difference. You only needed a $500 deposit, and they wrote you a check for $800. What they're doing is they're getting you to deposit the money in there, write you a check for the difference. The check goes back out. Now you've got your account number and routing number going back out to someone who was never going to rent your house in the first place. And they got $300 from you because the $800 check they sent you is not any good in the first place. Check washing, that's just where somebody takes a check that you've issued. You can literally wash the check to get the ink off of it. You can take fingernail polish remover and you can change the legal written amount. You can change the character amount. We found that gel-based pens are the hardest to wash. So you just need to be careful that that still does happen. Check card fraud. You know, I've pretty much quit using my check card. I use my credit card for everything, and then I just go online and transfer money as I need to. You know, Visa, they monitor my activity. They tell you what, if I go on vacation, I call them ahead of time, and I just let them know, look, I'm going to be in XYZ area, and I'll be there from this date to this date. Please know that if I'm buying these things, don't turn me down. My husband went on a trip, and I was with a bunch of guys, and I got the phone call the next morning, and he didn't call ahead of time, so of course I want to just say, yeah, you can turn them down, but I didn't. But I gave him a call the next, you know, when I talked to him next time. I said, where are you? Because the credit card company's calling, and they know you were outside your normal geographical area purchasing things. And he's like, oh, yeah, I guess I need to call him and tell him. So, and anytime there's any kind of suspicious activity on your credit card, I know that I had just a couple little penny transactions that'll show up, and they're doing that just to see if you've got a valid account number that they can start to steal information from. And they will sell your credit card number on the black market for blocks of 24 hours at a time, and then go around, and then it's no good for them after 24 hours, so they go sell it to someone else for another 24 hours. And these guys are making tons of money by taking these stolen account numbers and selling them and reselling them multiple times. Make sure you don't give out your PIN number. You will see that a lot of these sites are asking for that 3-digit number on the back of your card. It's another thing that if someone had stolen some gift cards from Target and loaded the account number on there, they're not going to know your billing zip code, they're not going to know the last 4 digits of that number, and they're not going to know the 3-digit code on the back of the card. So they're asking these to help protect and help to validate they have the correct person using the card. Merchant services, this is someone who's accepting Visa or accepting MasterCard, and as they do that, you know, when you're the customer who's receiving this, make sure you're aware of who exactly are you working with, and are you asking these qualifying questions. Sometimes you'll get asked, can I see your driver's license? Because I just want to validate that this is the correct card holder that is using it. You know, if you see little transactions showing up on your merchant accounts that are under $1, just suspicious looking things, please notify the bank and let us know. And we did already talk about the 3-digit number on the back. Wire fraud, there is all kinds of precautions that we do at the bank. You've got to have a wire agreement with us in place. You can initiate a wire, but we will call back. Over certain dollar limits, we will have the wire room call you back. So it may seem like we're harassing you, but once that money's gone, it is gone, and there's no way for us to get that back. So we're calling to validate that what you have requested is really what you requested. Dual control, that's going to be the key to everything. One person can initiate, one person can approve. We can put dollar limits on this. This works for ACH and for wires. Facsimile stamps, you'll go into just folks' office and notice that there's the facsimile stamp sitting right there. That's like gold. It's somebody's signature, so you want to be able to protect that and keep it locked up. Same thing for blank check stock. You want to make sure that you keep that locked up because that is your account number and routing number. Folks don't want to offer account information for ACH purposes to have their account drafted, but they'll issue a check, which doesn't make any sense because you just gave them your account number and routing number. So from an efficiency standpoint, it would be great just to have the payment done through ACH. You don't have to pay through, the check processing. It's always cheaper to go through ACH. And you went ahead and have the agreement ahead of time to set up those drafts. And you don't have to worry about checks in the mail, checks in the post office, checks that are just floating out there and you don't know where your check is going to be seen next. Tools to protect. This is just an online banking. I think everybody's familiar with online banking. These are available pretty much in all the banks. And what we'll want to do is set limits and monitor the activity that you have that's going through your online banking. It's a great tool to go out there and monitor your activity, make sure there's nothing suspicious that's going on. They've got current day and previous day information that's recorded. And then the token security. A lot of people joke that it looks like a pedometer, and they tossed it when we mailed them out in the beginning. Like, I don't need to lose weight. I don't know why y'all sending this to me. So they toss the little tokens, and they're not pedometers, they're security devices. So you got your username, you got your password, and then you'll have a token. You hit the little button, and it gives you a little number, and then you key in that number. It changes every 30 seconds. It's tied into an algorithm that's registered to that particular user. So it's another layer of protection that's available. Early fraud detection, we've talked about Positive Pay. Tell you what, that is the best insurance policy that you can get that's going to monitor your checking activity. Positive Pay is where you give us the check register, provide the check register to us, and we cross-reference it against what's happening on your account. We are going to notify you immediately if there's anything suspicious that does not match, and then you tell us whether to pay or return those checks. If they match up, then that's beautiful. We don't even bother you with that. But if there's anything that does not match, we're going to be able to catch it immediately. ACH blocks and filters. You can actually tell us who has authority to debit your account. And anybody who doesn't have authority to debit your account, we return all those electronic ACH debits. And what happens is sometimes with a payroll account in the beginning, you've got everybody set up on direct deposit, and you've got these new employees that get a payroll check. Well, the new employee goes out there, they get the routing, they get the account number, and they begin to write their own checks using your borrowed account number and routing number. They can be used at Walmart or wherever it may be, and that check is converted into an ACH transaction. And you don't ever notice it because you're like, oh, that little transaction, that's just an ACH debit, it's no big deal. Well, at the end of the month, you may have a whole list of them. And if it's a consumer check that they're writing at Walmart, they can convert that into an ACH item. So you got to be real careful, and you can actually block or you can filter ACH debits that hit your checking account. I'm not going to talk about controlled disbursement. Sweeps. You know, sweeps are a great way to be able to control the funds in your account, make sure you've got every dime working for you, whether it's going to be covering your day-to-day activity, or you're going to have any excess funds invested into an investment account, or you can have it invested into a line of credit. By creating some of these efficiencies, it'll help, grow the business a little bit in today's rate environment, but they're good options to have. Remote Express Deposit, I'm sure a lot of you have seen it. It looks like about the size of a shoebox. It sits on your desk, scans the checks, and you can actually make the deposits to the bank that way. Real important, when you scan the check and the deposit is complete, you got your confirmation, what you need to do is turn the check around the opposite direction and scan the front of it. And it's going to say electronically deposited item. Don't put void on the front, because if you need to redeposit the check, it's voided. But if you put electronically deposited item on the front, that's going to help protect you, and it's a notifier that this check has been deposited. Make sure you lock up these checks, because these checks, again, it's a business reputation to you, because you don't know who's coming into the office at nighttime. You don't know who's visiting the different employees that you have, and they can just borrow account numbers off the bottom of the check. And when this story gets uncovered that they got it out of your office at your business, then that becomes a risk. And you need to be real careful that the checks that are coming in, copies of checks that are coming in, need to remain locked up. And then you can shred them after a certain time period. Lockbox services are a great service to offer if you need to segregate some duties. What it does is it allows us to go to the post office and pick up your mail. We have central mail points around the southeast because the Postal Service is consolidating a lot of centers. There's some efficiencies gained by using some of these different regional places. We will go pick up the mail. We open the mail. We will separate the coupon and the invoice. We'll process your check, and then we'll create a remittance file. The remittance file allows you to post, let's say, 1,000 utility payments at one time versus having you post 1,000 payments by hand in the office. So it creates a lot of efficiencies. Deposit reconciliation allows you to have multiple locations like a school district or a convenience store. Use a code on the deposit ticket, which can also be tied into Remote Express Deposit. Pick your account number, your subcategory number, and then we create custom reports at the end of the month. And we'll say that location 1 made these deposits with a subtotal, location 2 made these deposits with a subtotal, and it makes your reconciliation and monitoring of the account much easier. Again, Trusteer, you can't go wrong. It's free, it's available. You download it onto your computer. You can go out to our bank website. It will direct you to another website that says it's going to take you to Trusteer Recore. And once you download it onto the computer, it's going to scan your hard drive and it's going to make sure that there's no malware or viruses silently sitting there. A lot of times when you download something or open up a file from Facebook or LinkedIn or wherever it may be coming from, these viruses will sit quiet on your computer until they're ready to start to capture this information. So feel free to go ahead and download this. Again, it's free and it's available. Where do you go from here? These are just some top 10 tips to avoid account hijacking for commercial customers. We've talked about a lot of them today. That was a 2-hour presentation that we did in 45 minutes. So I'll open it up for questions if y'all have any questions.
You mentioned skimmers could be purchased on eBay or what have you. Why would a sale of those be illegal? Do they have some type of legitimate use?
Not that I know of. You know, when you go out there, they have to monitor the different devices that are for sale out there. And of course, they can sneak them out there and you can buy 1 or 2 before it gets shut down. But it may not just be eBay, it may be available on other sites. If you Google skimmers, you're going to get all kinds of different things that pop up for you to purchase one. Another way that they skim your information is when you pay for a meal and you're out to dinner, they take your credit card and go to the back to run it. They're going to get, the waiter or waitress can actually make some money on the side, and it's a little, I mean, it's smaller than this device. They can run your card through it, and then they give that card skimmer to whoever at the end of the night, and they get some cash for capturing credit card information. So it's not just at the pump or at the ATM. It's at the restaurants. It's at lots of different places. But you can Google it, and you can buy them anywhere. It's scary.
I have one other question. I received a letter from my credit card company that indicated that my credit card may have been compromised or what have you. I reconcile my credit card statements every month, so I know there's been no charges on them that weren't derived by me or my spouse. What might have given rise to a bank sending me that? What evidence might they have had that could be indicative that my card may have been compromised?
They're going to build, most banks will build a profile around your activity, and they'll know how you purchase things. So you may normally only spend $1,000 a month on your credit card, and then you may have had like back to school purchases or just things, or you went on vacation, and they're like, okay, he went up to $2,500 this month, but it's just not adding up with his normal trend of activity. And they build these profiles, and then they'll send out these letters to help protect and just kind of create awareness. So if that does happen, the first thing I do is I get them on the phone and just say, what was the trigger that set it out? And they can tell you what it was, what parameter wasn't there that normally you fit within, and it'll help, create awareness that way. Any other questions?
Miles, are
Thank
you
you.
in the market for one of those devices?
Are you selling?
I may know a guy. Just kidding. Catherine, thank you so much.
Thank
you to SB&T on your presentation about protecting against identity theft. Obviously, identity theft is a major concern to all of us, and your presentation was very informative today. Also, I'd like to thank Albany Technical College again for the use of your boardroom. This is a very beautiful facility, and for your production of today's seminar. Thank you all for coming out today, and we look forward to having you again at one of our lunch and learns, and any other, tomorrow morning, that's what I was trying to remember. Tomorrow morning is the, what?
Rise and shine.
Rise and shine, and it is early in the morning. So we'd love to see you at the Hilton Gardens. It begins at 7:30, and you are all welcome, and look forward to seeing you. Have a great day. Thank you.